Can you tame wild women? Can you tame wild women? You made a tiger stand and eat out of your hand. You made the hippo do the flippo. Honest, it was grand, but can you tame wild women? So they'll always lead a sweet and simple life, with a wild, ferocious glance that pierced him like a lance. You made the grizzly bear get up and do the hula dance, but can you tame wild women? If you can, please tame my wife.
HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen.
Recently, has-been Hollywood personality Alyssa Milano responded to the legislative process in 2 states where she is not a resident by calling for the women of those states to use a sex strike as a weapon against their male partners in an effort to control their votes. While she got some enthusiasm from other Hollywood harridans, public reaction to the falling star's call for an army of wokeness was, at best, mixed. In fact, enough women found the idea more insulting than enlightened to leave its originator's ears and her reputation singed. Attempting to salvage something from this colossal failure, Milano dove for the standard excuse victim identitarians use when they discover that rebranding horse droppings as nuggets of wisdom fools nobody. Hey, at least it got a conversation started. And therein lies her idea's greatest failure, as well as her own. She does not understand the conversation she started at all. For instance, did she mean to call lesbians everywhere largely politically irrelevant? Can't boycott what you weren't buying anyway, can you? After some examination of the way establishment media usually handle such deep and compelling issues as feminist ideals and social conflict, it has become apparent that this lack of understanding might be due to a language barrier. Therefore, in order to better present the situation in a way a victim identitarian might understand, here is the gist of it in the style of the illustrious, highly respected political journal and cat blog, BuzzFeed. Behold, a Badger listicle.
Top 10 things Alyssa Milano accidentally said in the subcontext of her call for a sex strike. By Are You Kidding Me? HBR staff. Number 10. Pro-choice doesn't always mean pro-choice.
Supporters of legalized abortion call themselves pro-choice. The term would indicate not endorsement of the procedure, but support for both a right to use it and a right to reject it. Milano demonstrated an apparent limit to how many people's rejection of abortion pro-choice advocacy can abide. As soon as a community rejects it, suddenly choice is a bad thing, and those who made it must be punished. How hypocritical.
Number 9. Hollywood elites feel entitled to talk over the nobodies they claim to represent.
As we pointed out last week, the people of Alabama and Georgia voted, maybe based on their opinions, maybe party loyalty, but by their own guidance, as is the right of every voter. With a tweet demanding the women of these states try to use relational aggression as a means to manipulate the vote, Alyssa Milano admitted she doesn't believe in the right of average citizens to decide for themselves whether a particular candidate deserves their vote, especially if those citizens are men. Elitist much, Alyssa? Sexist much?
Number 8. Despite what they tell MRAs, feminists do expect women to be a monolith.
Milano's call to arms relied on the expectation that she'd be backed by the female population at large. Should only a handful of people in Hollywood answer the call, she'd be embarrassed, look silly, and maybe even do damage to her position. She wouldn't want that, would she? So she made that call on the assumption that it'd be picked up, amplified, and forwarded by women obligated to do so by virtue of sisterhood. She must have been really surprised by the backlash she encountered from pro-life women, although admitting that would have been even more damaging to her position, so she probably won't.
Number 7. Feminist women think they cannot accomplish anything without men.
Milano's call was not for women to get out and vote, write or call their representatives, or do something that would override them, like gather signatures to get a referendum on the next ballot and then vote to repeal the abortion laws they disapprove, or even challenge those laws in court in hopes of having them overturned. All things that could affect change through mainly women's actions. Nope, she told women to rely on male voters and male legislators to make the changes she wants. A lot of faith in women, that shows.
Number 6. Women don't have to create unplanned pregnancies.
Whether she intended to or not, Milano reminded us that conception really is under women's control because nobody gets pregnant as a result of abstaining from sex. So a demand for legalized abortion is really an admission by one facet of the political spectrum that society is expected to mitigate the consequences of women's carelessness using any means necessary, including killing their offspring, mostly for the sake of convenience. That really softens women's image, doesn't it? It totally makes female candidates look level-headed and accountable enough to trust with positions of government authority, right?
Number 5. Feminist morality is fickle.
The simplified version of I will withhold A from you until you provide me with B is I will trade you A in exchange for B. If A is sex, is the nature of the transaction really changed by whether B is money or some other resource? So much for feminist opposition to human trafficking of women. They're fine with it when it's under their control and done on their terms.
Number 4. The most important thing about a woman is her vagina.
Of all of the bargaining chips one could use, other political issues, logical arguments, discussion points on morals and ethics, even fallacious appeals to pity, Milano chose bad voter, no nookie. Because apparently the almighty golden vag carries that much more value than a woman's mind.
Number 3. Women have power.
Regardless of her chosen method, Alyssa Milano expects women's social influence to be a determining factor in the electorate's voting pattern, and by threat of that, in legislators' decision-making process, so much so as to get state laws repealed. Why would she have that expectation? What evidence might there be in the histories of this and other nations that might lead her to consider it a likelihood?
Number 2. We do not live in a rape culture.
Only one question is needed here. Why would a sex strike work if we lived in a culture in which sexual violence against women is prevalent, pervasive, and normalized?
Number 1. Our society is not the patriarchy of feminist imagining.
How exactly would a sex strike even happen, much less be effective in a system of social structures and practices in which men dominate, oppress, and exploit women? Who would participate, and whose sexual advances would they rebuff? Would any participants be taken seriously talking about it in public? And if they were, what would be the result in their community? How about in their homes?
This concludes the Badger Listicle. We hope it has cleared up a few things even victim identitarians have difficulty grasping. Unfortunately, I'm afraid we don't have reaction emojis for you to click to inform us of your thoughts on the ideas herein. You'll have to let us know in the comments instead.